Not giving a fuck doesn't mean being indifferent. It means being comfortable with being different. That's the heart of this book. And it comes from Mark Manson, a blogger turned author, who noticed that modern self-help often sells us the idea that we must always be extraordinary, always happy, always winning. But in reality, this endless chase for positivity often makes us more anxious, more insecure, and less fulfilled. Mark wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck as a counterintuitive guide to living a better life, not by adding more, but by caring less. His philosophy isn't about avoiding problems or pretending life is perfect. Instead, it's about realizing that our time, energy, and attention are limited. And because they're limited, we must choose wisely what to give our energy to. The core idea is simple but powerful. You don't need to care about everything. In fact, you can't. The more you obsess over trivial things, the less space you have for what truly matters. The art lies in letting go of the noise and focusing on the few values, relationships, and struggles that give life real meaning. Chapter 1: Don't Try. One of the boldest lessons Mark Manson introduces is the paradox of success. The more you desperately chase positivity, the less satisfied you become. The harder you try to be happy, the unhappier you often feel. Think about it. When you're constantly comparing your life to others, striving for perfection, and chasing endless goals, you start to believe you're never enough. The pursuit of happiness becomes a trap. True happiness doesn't come from eliminating problems, it comes from solving them. Life is never free of challenges. But instead of running from them, we should learn to face them and pick the struggles that matter most. Progress, not perfection, is what gives life meaning. Mark illustrates this idea with the story of Charles Bukowski, a writer who became famous not because he was disciplined or obsessed with success, but because he accepted who he was. Bukowski was an alcoholic, a gambler, often a mess by society's standards. Yet on his gravestone are the words, "Don't try." He didn't pretend to be extraordinary, he embraced being average. And that's the subtle truth: you don't need to be special to live a meaningful life. The constant pressure to be amazing at everything is exhausting and unrealistic. Instead, by letting go of the need to prove yourself, by accepting your limitations, you free yourself to focus on what truly matters. Don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to please everyone. Don't try to chase every shiny idea of success. Instead, choose your struggles, embrace reality, and let go of perfection. That's where true satisfaction begins. Chapter 2: Happiness is a Problem. Happiness, as Mark Manson explains, is not the absence of problems. In fact, life itself is struggle by default. From the moment we're born until the moment we die, our existence is defined by challenges, obstacles, and setbacks. The real mistake many people make is believing that one day, all their problems will disappear, that if they earn enough money, find the right partner, or land the perfect job, then life will finally be smooth. But problems never end. The only thing that changes is the quality of the problems we face. Think of it like leveling up in a game. As soon as you solve one problem, another one appears, often bigger or more complex. But this isn't a curse, it's life. The key to fulfillment is not to eliminate struggle, but to choose struggles that are meaningful. Happiness, then, is not achieved by chasing comfort or avoiding hardship. True happiness is found in picking struggles that are worth enduring. The struggles that shape us, teach us, and connect us to something bigger than ourselves. For example, raising children is stressful, exhausting, and full of problems. But for many, those struggles bring deep joy because they align with their values. Compare that with obsessing over social media likes, or stressing about buying the next flashy gadget. Those struggles don't bring lasting fulfillment. They just keep us restless. The truth is this: you will always have problems. You can't escape them. The question is not how do I live a life without problems. The real question is which problems am I willing to face, and which struggles are worth it. When you answer that wisely, you move closer to the kind of happiness that lasts. Chapter 3: You are not special. In today's world, we are constantly told that we're special. Social media, advertising, even motivational speeches keep repeating, "You're extraordinary, you deserve the best, you can be anything you want. On the surface, that sounds empowering. But Mark Manson calls this the culture of entitlement, and it comes with a hidden trap. When you believe you're extraordinary, you begin to think the rules don't apply to you. You expect life to give you special treatment, without earning it. And when reality doesn't match those expectations, frustration, bitterness, and self-pity follow. Toxic positivity is another side of this entitlement. It convinces us that we must always be happy, always confident, always winning. But no one feels amazing all the time. Pretending otherwise only deepens insecurity. The truth? Most of us are ordinary. And that's not an insult, it's a liberation. When you stop trying to prove that you're exceptional, you free yourself from endless pressure and comparison. Accepting ordinariness allows you to focus on what really matters: your growth, your relationships, and your values. Growth doesn't come from pretending you're flawless. It comes from embracing your flaws and limitations. When you acknowledge that you're not perfect, you open the door to improvement. You start putting in the real work instead of hiding behind illusions of greatness. Mark reminds us that being average is not the same as being meaningless. Life is meaningful not because you're special, but because you can make choices, build character, and create impact in your own small but significant way. So stop demanding that life treat you like you're extraordinary. Embrace the freedom of being ordinary. Because once you let go of the pressure to be special, you finally gain the clarity and courage to grow. Chapter 4: The Value of Suffering. One of the most powerful lessons in this book is that suffering is unavoidable. No matter who you are, where you live, or how much success you achieve, pain will always be a part of life. The difference lies in this: we all get to choose what we suffer for. Mark Manson puts it bluntly: you can't escape pain, but you can decide which struggles are worth your energy. A fulfilling life isn't built by avoiding hardship. It's built by embracing the right kind of hardship. This brings us to an important distinction: responsibility versus fault. Something may not be your fault, but it is still your responsibility. For example, if someone crashes into your car, that accident may not be your fault. But it is your responsibility to deal with the situation, call insurance, repair the car, and move forward. The same principle applies in relationships, careers, and personal growth. We don't always control what happens to us. But we do control how we respond. And it is in those responses that our character is revealed. The key question, then, is not how do I live without pain? That question has no answer. The real question is, what pain am I willing to endure? Are you willing to endure the pain of disciplined practice to master a craft? The pain of vulnerability to build a deep relationship? The pain of rejection to pursue your dreams? Every worthwhile pursuit carries its own set of problems. Love comes with heartbreak. Success comes with sacrifice. Health comes with effort. There is no life without suffering. There are only choices about what's worth suffering for. So ask yourself today, what am I willing to endure? What struggles align with the values I care about most? Because the moment you choose your suffering, your life takes on meaning. Chapter 5: You are always choosing. Every moment of life is a choice. That's the lesson Mark Manson drives home in this chapter. Whether you realize it or not, you are always choosing. We often tell ourselves, I don't have a choice, especially in tough situations. But that's not true. You may not control what happens to you, but you always control how you respond. Even choosing to do nothing is still a choice. Think about it. When you stay in a job you hate, you're choosing the security of a paycheck over the uncertainty of change. When you avoid difficult conversations, you're choosing temporary comfort over long-term resolution. Every action and inaction is a decision. And here's the empowering part. When you take ownership of your choices, you take back your power. Instead of blaming circumstances, or other people, or bad luck, you realize, I am responsible for my life. That shift is what separates growth from stagnation. On the other hand, the victim mentality says it's not my fault, so it's not my responsibility. That mindset traps you, because it hands over your power to someone else, to your boss, your parents, your partner, or society. Waiting for the world to change keeps you powerless. The responsibility mindset is different. It says, this may not be my fault, but it's still my responsibility to deal with it. And when you own that truth, you gain freedom. You can choose better values, better struggles, and ultimately, a better life. The lesson is simple but profound. You are always choosing. And the quality of your life depends on the quality of the choices you make. Chapter 6. You're wrong about everything, but so am I. Here's a hard truth. No matter how smart or experienced you think you are, you're wrong about something right now. And so am I. Mark Manson explains that uncertainty is the only constant in life. The world is too complex, too unpredictable, for us to ever be completely right about anything. Our beliefs, our assumptions, even our memories, they're all imperfect. But this isn't a reason to despair. It's a reason to grow. Growth means updating your beliefs when new information comes along. It means admitting, I was wrong yesterday, but I know better today. That's not weakness, it's strength. Think about it. Some of the things you believed 5 years ago probably make you laugh now. That's a sign you've evolved. The people who never change their minds, who cling to certainty, are often the ones who stagnate. Confidence, then, is not about always being right. Real confidence is being okay with being wrong. It's the courage to test your ideas, challenge your assumptions, and accept feedback without crumbling. The most successful people aren't the ones who know it all. They're the ones who stay open, flexible, and humble. So the next time you're tempted to defend your opinion at all costs, remember, you don't need to be right all the time. What matters is being willing to learn, adapt, and grow. Because in the end, the path to wisdom isn't certainty, it's curiosity. Chapter 7. Failure is the way forward. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's the path to it. That's the truth Mark Manson drives home in this chapter. We live in a culture that fears failure, that labels mistakes as weakness. But the reality is, improvement can't exist without failure. Every skill, every breakthrough, every achievement is built on a trail of missteps, rejections, and wrong turns. Think of it as a cycle. Action leads to feedback, and feedback leads to growth. You try something, you fail, you adjust, and then you get better. Without taking that first action, there's nothing to learn from. Without failure, there's no progress. Mark calls this the do something principle. When you're stuck, waiting for motivation or clarity, the best thing you can do is act. Not think endlessly. Not overanalyze. Just do something. Even the smallest step forward creates momentum. Action generates feedback, feedback builds clarity, and clarity fuels more action. Too many people sit around waiting for confidence before they take action. But confidence doesn't come first, action does. You build confidence by failing, learning, and improving. Every successful person you admire didn't avoid failure, they leaned into it, used it as fuel, and kept moving. So don't run from failure. See it for what it really is, a teacher. A necessary part of the process. The more you fail, the faster you learn. And the faster you learn, the closer you move toward the life you want. Remember this, failure is not the end. It's the beginning of growth. Chapter 8. The importance of saying no. One of the most underrated skills in life is the ability to say no. Mark Manson makes it clear, commitment requires rejection. Every meaningful yes demands 1,000 no's. When you commit to one career, you say no to all the others. When you commit to one relationship, you close the door to countless alternatives. This may feel restrictive at first. But in truth, it's what creates depth and fulfillment. Without boundaries, life becomes scattered, shallow, and exhausting. Think about it. When you try to say yes to everything, you stretch yourself too thin. Your energy, your time, your focus, spread across too many directions, lose their power. But when you draw boundaries and reject distractions, you free yourself to go deeper into what truly matters. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They protect your values, your priorities, and your peace of mind. They ensure that you're not living by other people's expectations but by your own. Ironically, boundaries create freedom, freedom to fully commit, to give your best, and to live with clarity. And this is where depth outweighs breadth. A few deep relationships are worth more than 100 shallow connections. Mastery of one craft is more rewarding than dabbling in dozens. Depth requires focus, and focus is only possible when you learn to say no. So the lesson is simple. Every yes has a cost. If you want a life of meaning, be ruthless with your no's. Because only by rejecting what doesn't matter can you make room for what truly does. Chapter 9, and then you die. At the end of it all, there is one reality none of us can escape: death. It doesn't matter how much money you make, how many followers you gain, or how many achievements you collect, eventually, everything comes to an end. For Mark Manson, death isn't something to fear, it's the ultimate clarity filter. When you face your own mortality, the petty concerns of life start to lose their grip. The things you once obsessed over, status, possessions, approval, suddenly feel small. What remains are the values and choices that truly matter. Mortality reminds us that our time is limited. And because time is limited, our attention is precious. Knowing that life ends forces us to prioritize, to stop wasting energy on trivialities and instead focus on what gives life meaning. And that leads to the idea of legacy. Legacy isn't about what you accumulate, it's about how you impact others. It's not the car you drove or the house you bought that people will remember. It's the love you gave, the values you lived by, and the difference you made in the lives around you. Death strips away illusions and brings us back to truth. We don't get to control how long we live, but we do get to control how we live. Each choice, each relationship, each action is an opportunity to leave something behind that matters. So ask yourself, if life ended today, what would your legacy be? What would people remember about you? Death may feel like an ending, but in truth, it's a guide, a reminder to live with purpose, clarity, and courage. Conclusion. So, what's the subtle art of not giving a fuck really about? It's about focus. It's about realizing that your time, your energy, your attention, these are limited. And wasting them on meaningless things robs you of a meaningful life. Mark Manson reminds us to choose our values carefully. Not the shallow values of status, comfort, or constant positivity, but deeper ones: responsibility, truth, resilience. These values may not always feel good in the moment, but they create strength, clarity, and purpose in the long run. The heart of this book is simple: life becomes richer when you care less about more, and more about less. By narrowing your focus to what truly matters, your growth, your relationships, your contribution, you strip away the noise and uncover meaning. So here's your call to action. Decide today what's truly worth giving a fuck about. Ask yourself, what am I willing to struggle for? What values do I want to live by? What truly deserves my time and energy? Because the quality of your life depends on the quality of your choices. In the end, the subtle art of not giving a fuck isn't about apathy, it's about courage. The courage to stop chasing everything, and to start living for the things that matter most. If you find this audiobook valuable, don't keep it to yourself. Share it and subscribe to the channel for more life-changing audiobooks.